Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Yo, welcome back to another edition of Dogging It, and welcome back, Michael Panozzo. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Good.
Doing all right. Back from Norfolk.
Back from beautiful downtown Norfolk, Virginia. I actually like it out there. You know, I like the events the events downtown. Like it more than the event was better out in Chesapeake, especially at the conference center. But I like when it's downtown because there's just more to do. You can get up in the morning and walk someplace, and
Right.
down by the water. They got the boats, the Navy boats, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. But
Good restaurants nearby.
yeah, some good restaurants. Yeah, some good stuff down there.
Well, I'm gonna jump right into what everybody wants to know about Mike, and that was I know you know what I'm gonna ask here, Mike.
No, I don't.
And, well, it was how was the dinner with old Mike Sigel? That's what I'm gonna ask.
How was the
Mike.
dinner with
Yeah.
Mike Sigel? How would you expect the dinner with Mike Sigel to go?
I'm surprised you made it back home. I figured y'all still be talking.
Yeah, no,
So,
Mike Sigel, he's still one of my favorite people. He was one of the first people I met when I started, and he hasn't changed a bit. And he's as entertaining as they come. I mean, you're going to have to fade a lot of nonstop talking, as people who watched online, know. But he's a pretty entertaining character, and I told him I was coming to town. He texted me and told me that he was going to be doing he's going to be doing some of the AccuStats stuff. So he said, what night can we go out to dinner? He's putting the bite on me already for a dinner before I get out there.
there you go.
And
There you go.
So the first day I get
Line
there,
it up.
he starts messaging me about I got tonight up. I said I can't do it tonight. I got dinner with someone else. So he starts ragging me the next night. He's like, I got some. I was reading all the posts online. He said I got to get him out of the booth.
Did he see some of those posts, Mike?
Oh yeah, he sees them, and he says, listen, I know I talk a lot. If you don't like it, hit the mute button. I love pool. I love talking about it.
Yeah.
So we went out second night, and we just had a ton of fun. And he breaks into old stories, which he does all the time, and can recall ball placement on tables 35 years ago.
I love that. Like every pro pool player does.
Oh my God! They pull out a napkin. I know it's not to use on their mouth. I know it's to draw on.
Yeah.
So no, we had a lot of fun. It was a really entertaining night. Yeah,
I've been in International Open, I think, a couple of times, and it's always a real nice event. The venue's super nice, like you mentioned, and the weather was cold, but I'm from the Gulf, so anything is cold for me. But it looked like a really fun event. Capped off with Yap, winning the International Open, some junior stuff going on as well with I think it was Sophia Mass and Payne McBride winning. So it was a good time, Mike. What was your takeaway of the event itself?
Good event. You saw some people starting to, assert themselves in the, in the later parts of these events. Most of all, Yap. I mean, he's had a really good year, and it's getting better and better. I mean, he finished second in Michigan.
Really good.
Then he won out in Roanoke. Then he comes down there. He wins the 9-ball, finishes top 4 in the 10-ball. And he's such a nice guy. You can't help but root for him. But all he ever tells you after a match is how he got all the roles, and he was very fortunate, and he didn't feel all that good. I'm like, geez, this guy's killing me.
Imagine when he's saying, "Oh yeah, I'm just killing it right
now." Yeah. If he ever gets in stroke, it's gonna be tough for people.
Look out, everyone! Look out, Federer. More importantly, who he seems to have.
He seems to have Federer's. Yeah, he seems to have Federer's number. They keep running into each other a lot. And
how mental do you think it is at this point, Mike?
I don't know. I'm not a good enough, player. I've never been good enough at anything. I mean, I love sports and I played in all sorts of sports, and I would get intimidated by virtually anybody. So I don't know what it's like when you play at that level and someone seems to have your number. Does it affect you before the match? And then once the match starts, you don't think about it? Does it affect you later in the match? Does it affect you as soon as the guy gets 2 games ahead and you think, here we go again? I imagine it's different for different people, but I don't know. I don't know how. There's a lot of players who have a tough time against other opponents. You talk about Shane playing
The Shane
filler.
effect is real. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
fair.
do you think it gets in his head? Yeah, but so yeah, I don't know what the how Federer feels about Yap.
Well, I don't think it gets in Shane's head. I know it gets in Shane's head because he recognizes the record, right, and the skill
Right.
set, and then just the way that he's played against them, right. And he's, if you ask him who do you think has had your number over the last few years, he'll kind of smile and like a half eye roll and mention Josh. So, but he's also the ultimate competitor and loves to get up for that match as well.
Right.
Each and every time.
Right.
So I think that and I mean this like just in regards to sports, but there's guys who are used to bullying, and then there's guys who get bullied. So it's a little bit
Right.
interesting when you watch like the guys who intimidate based off of resume and respectfully and rightfully so, like Josh's and Shane's and Federer's, and then you kind of see them get put back on their heels, which doesn't happen all too often, but occasionally it does, and I think it creates these pseudo rivalries that end up becoming great talking points, and it's even better when you see guys just have to respond back differently than what they're used to.
Right.
So
Right.
um, yeah, I think yeah. So let us know in the chat if you guys can hear us and if we're coming through all right. We got about 50 or so people tuning in on all the platforms, which is awesome. I know there's also the Pro Billiard Series event that's going on right now
Yeah.
in Puerto Rico, a ton of other stuff. But there was a great other aspect to Norfolk, Mike, and that was the Hall of Fame banquet. Mike, what does that mean to you? Being such a big part of that all this time.
Yeah, I don't, I never look at it as me being a big part of it. I look at it as me being a huge fan of it because I just think, people get tired of it because I talk to them all the time about how it's, how important it is. Because we're a sport that doesn't have a lot of money to take care of its own, right? So
Right.
we get these heroes and these great, and we don't get that many opportunities to put them up on a pedestal and really applaud them and talk about their careers. So the Hall of Fame banquet's that one time a year where we get all these people together. And this year there were 14 Hall of Famers there, which is great. I mean, that's pretty amazing that a lot of these guys come just to be part of it. And it was really great. And you've been to I don't know, I think you've been to the Hall of Fame banquet before, right?
No, I don't think so,
Okay,
Mike.
you haven't been to one.
No,
Okay,
no.
so what you do, you hear from these Hall of Famers who get inducted, and they talk about their careers and their lives, and they bring up stuff that you've never heard before. They bring up stuff that really has been like deep down them, not always like secrets, or they just never really talked about issues they had or problems they faced or decisions they had to make along the way. And it's really interesting and really cool to listen to these guys kind of bare their souls. And
I love that.
Niels was fantastic. The video for this, the edited video of the whole night will come out in the next couple of weeks, and we'll post it on for everybody to see. But Niels was fantastic, and I actually had players afterwards mention how inspiring he was to them. I mean, top players who said, that lit a fire under me to go out and dig back in there and quit feeling sorry for myself and moan and whatever, and get back in there and put the work in and play better. So that's what you get from these guys when they get in onto that stage, and it's a really cool thing to be part of.
Well, when you think about players who represent the sport, when you think about athletes, when you think about professionalism and how you carry yourself, and kind of a no BS, no excuses kind of guys. I mean, you won't have to go too far down the list before you get to Niels Fine,
Yeah, no,
right?
Niels, yeah,
He epitomizes what it takes to persevere, and just is the ultimate competitor. And it's quite astonishing as young as this game has gotten. seeing guys like Niels who can still compete at an incredibly high level is pretty inspiring, Mike. And I saw
Yeah.
guys like Federer make a post saying how they looked up to Niels. And while I'm
Yeah.
sure those are positives take away, and it's great sentiment, but I'm sure Niels wouldn't mind having a couple wins over the next year over a guy like Federer in a
Yeah.
semifinal. And because he still legitimately feels like my game is still at that level, and I think he's still well within punching distance of being able to snap off a major, Mike.
Yeah, he is. He's shown it in the last couple of years that he can get, deep enough. He can get to a last eight, last four, type of thing, and take down a couple names along the way. He's still in contention, and he's like also added that part to his career of being this teacher, coach, lessons, talk about the mental game, his whole video series, things like that. So because he's a very analytical guy. And so he's taken that,
But it's also
not
good for business, Mike, and having
it is, when you're
thinking
still
about things
playing well.
outside of the game.
Yeah. No, yeah. He's smart enough to do that. He's smart enough to look ahead to his future and say, how do I parlay this into, a little more security and stability, and stay in
Right.
the game, stay involved in the game. I mean, he's a dead nuts lock to be a Mosconi Cup coach in future years, right? A captain. Once he's pretty much done playing,
We've asked him that question, and he still, I think he takes it with appreciation and kind of knows his position. But I think that there's still way too much competitiveness, at
Oh
least
yeah,
at this
there's way too
point,
much. I'm not
left.
talking about now.
Yeah,
I'm not even talking about the
yeah,
next year. But when he does decide, or when it is obvious that he's not, a contender, he'll be the first name on the list, because he just knows how. Not only does he know how Mosconi Cup works, but he's such a good motivator and teacher and analyst. He'll be great. And he told some great stories. He told a great story about, when he first came to the US, and they kind of like threw him into the deep end and just said, here, you got to, go play these guys for money. And we're talking about Niels Fangin here. He's talking about playing guys for money. And he said he was really not, hit a real rough patch and was not doing well, and had told his partner in Ohio, who was kind of, putting him up and staking him a lot of stuff and whatever, that, he questioned whether or not he could continue, whether he could make it at this level. And the guy said, I got $100. I got a player for you to play. We'll play, play one more match, and we'll see. And Neil says, I'm in this room, and all of a sudden Boosty comes walking, and Boosty was always Neil's hero. And he said, Boosty comes walking. I'm thinking, well, that's really cool. While I'm playing, I get to watch Boosty play, whatever. And it turns out that Bustamante was the guy that his partner lined up for him to play.
Go get him, kid.
He said, I thought, oh my God, I don't know about this. So he said he went in there and he ran 4, and he, a couple saves here and there, ran 3. And he said he won the first set 9-0. And he said Boosty was wearing a baseball cap. And he said Boosty just grabbed the bill of the cap and spun it around backwards. And he said, I knew at that point I was in trouble.
That's so funny.
And Boosty went and ran off the next two sets to win the $100. And Neil said, I lost $100, but that was the moment in my career that I knew that I thought I could get to that I could play at that level, and that I was going to stick with it and stick to it. And you hear someone talk about that. I mean, these like seminal moments in their career. It's really cool stuff.
It's incredible just how fragile life can be, and who knows how things could have just turned through the course of history had he not gotten there, or maybe would have gotten just punished that first set. And that's just the way that things can kind of flow at times. And that's what's beautiful about the world and the life that we have. Right. So, and now here we are, the guys getting celebrated amongst, 20 Hall of Famers, a room full of industry leaders and peers and young up and coming players who were showing their respect. And I'm sure it was quite the moment for Niels. I saw his daughters were there, his wife was there, other family members that flew over from Europe.
Was there. Yeah,
that's pretty special, Mike.
It was fantastic, and I think he was blown away by the number of players who were there in the room. I mean, Pat does such a nice thing, Pat Fleming, for the Hall of Fame, where he stops play from 4 o'clock until 7:30.
That's a
And
long stop, Mike, in
that
between
is a long stop in a
a big
tournament.
tournament.
And
Yeah.
but he loves the Hall of Fame as much as anyone. So he does that, and it allows a lot of players to go if they want to, but they still have to want to go. And there's a lot of players who now have gone once or twice, and you can tell, they don't want to miss it, because it is something that lights a fire on them and inspires them. And they get to watch all these heroes tell trade war stories and take pictures together. And so, you get a room full of Tyler Stiers and Feder Gorsts and Christinas and Joshes and Jasons. And, they're all in the room to check this out. And that's really, to me, proof in the pudding on how important this is.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, is how maybe this younger generation maybe feels about the Hall of Fame, and whether or not that's something that means something to them, like the older
Of course it
generation maybe
does.
takes. Yeah.
I mentioned this year, I said, that it's the way that it's your legacy. It's the way you get remembered. And no really great young player like a Josh or someone like that gets into the sport and doesn't think somewhere in the back of their head how much they want their career to be remembered forever. Right.
Immortality, Mike.
Right. And so, that's in there. And that's what the Hall of Fame represents, is that perspective and that history and whatever, that keeps these guys and their accomplishments in front of everybody, for generations and generations to come.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I feel like this is something that's super important in the sport, because
It is.
you look at you look at any sport, and it's great to go and see legends get remembered. And we don't have the when you think about, like, let's say football as an example, or baseball, whatever, right? You finish with the game, then you can go and coach whatever minor league. You can maybe do broadcasting stuff, and players aren't afforded that kind of security or opportunity, in pool. And this is one way that we can kind of be parallel to other sports. And it's important to remember these legends and kind of hear their mortal moments, like that story of Niels playing Boosty, and struggles that they've gone through, and it humanizes them, but it makes them relatable to fans as well, because all we've seen is them on big stages accomplish big things throughout their career. And while that's important, it's also important to realize how human that they are, and that they had to overcome quite a bit, and everyone has their own unique story. And it's a small group of players who are in there now, and it's great to go and see guys like Federer and Josh's. And I'm with you 1,000,000%, because I've heard younger players, like even like a Sky, who thinks about his legacy and who knows history, and it's important for them, and they're very much aware of it, and I think they want that at some point in their career, Mike. And it's a kudos to you and your team that are putting this together, voters alongside that, and of course the sponsors who have helped out make that event
Yeah,
what it
it's
is.
fun stuff. It's fun stuff. And yeah, and the industry supports it, really well. Because I think there's a lot of industry members who are still, pool diehards at heart, and they understand and recognize and respect the Hall of Fame and the importance of it. So yeah, we get a lot of support, which is great.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the only areas where maybe everyone in the pool world can kind of come together and keep their bullshit to the side, Mike. And if they can't agree on anything else, they're at least agreeing that this is worth getting behind, right?
It is worth getting around. They'll disagree with who's in and who's not, but that's all right.
That's a whole other conversation, because Lord knows there's plenty of debate on each side. I've seen, we're going to try to have Corey on, speaking of, who was a Hall of Fame. He was on the Hall of Fame ballot.
Right.
Lots of debate whether or not he should be on there. Maybe it's something we can discuss later on this week, or hopefully later on this week, if and when we get Corey on. So
Yeah.
Lots of other stuff, Mike. What else was going on in the pool world that caught your eye over the last few days?
Well, I mean, the event in Puerto Rico, obviously, you got,
Right.
3 big events going down there: a women's event, men's 10 ball, and world teams, which was going to be exciting. That's always a great event. And I got to watch a little bit of what's going on so far down there. All the live stream stuff is great. They do a really, really good job of allowing everybody to follow everything that's going on there. And also, I got to tell you, what I think they do really well, is parties.
What?
They
The
well, the
opening
whole
ceremony.
the opening ceremony type of thing. That's a cool thing. It gives that international sports festival feel to it, and I think the players appreciate it. I think that it makes the players, stand up a little bit straighter, a little bit taller. They don't just get bussed in, dropped off, head to the locker room, go and queue up and play. There's a little more celebration to it, and I think that's a really good thing. Doesn't have to be at every event that there is. I mean, you're not going to go to the international and see a parade of flags or whatever the case is, but for these world events or these big international competitions, I think that's it's really cool to get the local community involved in it, the local government involved in it, tourism bureau, whoever you can get to buy in to help you kind of create an atmosphere around us. I think what they do is really cool there.
Well, not to mention just these outside sponsors they've gotten, to get on board with them within the event, Mike. We see the Medallia Light,
Yeah, well,
and
clearly in
Reyes
Puerto Rico,
Cup.
they've got a lot of local support down there, which is why this event comes off as such a big festival. And I think that's great.
Well, I mean, listen, there ain't nothing wrong with going to Puerto Rico in November.
No, I wish I
So
could go. I mean, it's just it's a bad time month for me. Otherwise, I'd be down there on the beach,
I mean, look, they'll
watching
welcome you.
the matches on stream.
They'll, they'll welcome you with open arms, Mike. Given the way that
Oh yeah,
things have gone.
yeah. That's yeah,
No,
yeah,
I'm with you. I like them being treated a little special during, and not a little special just during these events, but it makes them get treated like the athletes that they are, right? I
yeah.
think it makes them have more
It's
pride
important.
in
Yeah,
representing their country and going out there and performing, and it's a different kind of all eyes are on you in a kind of different aspect, right? It's not
right.
you're not getting like federation spots to play in a Qatar Open or something where it's a little kind of obscure stream. They go as all out as they can within reason and
Yeah,
put on a pretty
it's
good
great.
event.
Yeah, it's cool.
The tournament, is a little it can kind of be a little fast paced. There's a lot going on. It's a little hard to follow or look into because there's not that traditional bracket to kind of look at. You kind of have to go back and forth and see, well, who's going to play who where and
Yeah.
so I wish there was a little bit better or easier on the eye, I should say. But the quality of the field looks pretty stout, Mike. Having the teams event there and kind of getting
Is
everyone
there
together
an
is
actual
pretty great.
bracket?
What's that?
I mean, is there an actual bracket?
No, no.
Okay.
All they got is that formatted Pro Billiard Series thing, and it's like, okay, so this guy won. Now I got to go back and look at match 113 and see, okay, who's he going to go face? So let me scroll all
So
the
it is
way
a
down,
bracket. They just don't
and
show a bracket. Loser
yeah,
to this
yeah,
match, loser
yeah.
to that match, whatever it is.
It is traditional in that aspect. It's just the way that it's formatted, I guess. And everybody likes to
Yeah.
be different, I suppose. So I mean, to each their own, right? But it just
Yeah,
makes like it became.
I like to know who's playing who in the next round before all the scores are posted. But that
Well, it's. I mean, you're just old, Mike, and old fashioned like that. What you gotta get a little more modern.
Well, don't you like
Okay,
to look ahead?
I'm being sarcastic. Yes, I agree with you a
You
million
have to
percent,
look
Mike.
ahead at the 2 or 3 rounds ahead and say, oh, these guys
Well,
are
that's
lining
part of
up.
the fun of it, Mike.
Yes,
We
it
want to
is.
see who's got the potential
Yeah.
to face one another. We want to see, what are some grudge matchups that could be happening or maybe won't come to
You're
fruition,
not
right? And
suggesting that maybe they go like to Walmart and buy a flow chart, are you?
well, I mean, we can't. We're not. Listen,
I can't believe I just stepped on that bomb.
I can't with you, Mike. I can't with you. Let me get. Babe, can you bring me some coffee, Madeline? I need some coffee. I need to put some scotch in there too
That was a
while you're at it. No.
landmine that I just stepped on there.
Listen, well, Lord knows we've gotten our fair share of what for kind of critiquing Pro Billiard Series events, and there's a lot of look.
I'm
While I
just
think
teasing. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. I
well,
love
you're gonna get an email, I'm sure, Mike, at some point. But no, I think listen, they're doing a good job. It looks like a fun atmosphere,
Yeah.
to be in, having
The
that
players look
Latin
like they
flavor
love
in
being
there.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But still, Mike, there were fields that were not full. Men's and women's both were just a hair short, it seemed like, of being able to get to full capacity. I'm not sure why that is, Mike, just given the buildup and the
Yeah.
excitement and, of course,
I mean,
the
there's,
the location.
yeah, unless you're playing in Moscone Cup, this is pretty much it, right? For the end of the year. So you would think all the players would, dial into this. You got to, if especially, well, obviously, if you're in the teams event, you get a kind of a double shot at making some money. But but yeah, still good field. A lot of great players in there. I noticed like the Coes are missing, things like that. But
Why is that, Mike? Also Yap, who's noticeably out of this event as well.
Well, Yap did not get an invitation. Well, Singapore is banned from playing in the teams event. So I think that he just thought, I'm not going to go there for.
So he's good enough to play in Michigan, but not good enough to play in the teams event.
Yeah, well, because the teams event is something that's allocated by the federation. His federation's getting frozen out, right? So,
It's a little shitty, Mike.
yeah, it is. It is. We're still trying to sort our way. I think that this is the way it's happening. I mean, we're still trying to sort our way through what all the rules and regulations and stipulations are now, because we know that Asian players who were banned after Hanoi are playing in this, and it's a WPA event. So, who knows?
Right.
It's a little hard to go through all that. But I'm assuming that that's what it is. So.
I mean,
Yep is playing.
Is he?
Yes.
So he's just not playing in the teams
Thank
event.
you, Aaron.
But he's playing.
I thought that he was, and then no, he's not playing in the team event for sure. Because they got froze out of the team event. That I know for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
The Coes, I'm not sure. I had messaged them some time ago, and they said they just had too much going on back in Taipei to do any more running around right now. And I think there's an Asian Open going on, a tournament in Asia going on as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that this is an opportunity for maybe the promoter to kind of put their foot down and maybe try to have, some negotiating when it comes to the who they want to have in their event. No disrespect to
they do. The promoter does, which is why Yap can play here, which is why Beato can play here, which is why Oi can play here when they're banned Asian players by the Asian Federation. This event's not in Asia, and it's a WPA event, so the promoter here can select players, which to me makes even less sense, because it basically just tells the Asian Federation, yeah, I know what your rules is, but it doesn't matter. So I don't know what tails wag and what dog when it comes to their rules. And they seem to be able to find a way to rationalize any decision that gets made or not. So that's life.
Yeah, I saw members of the WPA there during opening ceremonies, along with other heads within the industry going and being a part of it. I wish there was a little bit more transparency with that, because then it rolls out speculation or hearsay or rumor or any of that, and for whatever reason they just choose not to go that route, Mike, at least publicly. And so that part I have a little bit of a hard time understanding, because then they'll play a little more victim when it comes to maybe guys like me and you saying things that are just that maybe are inaccurate, when it's just all we can do is assume or find out whatever information that we can that's available.
When have we ever been inaccurate?
Let me introduce you to the show name, Panozzo, right? Welcome, buddy. No, but there was look, I love the team events. I do. I love the Moscone Cup because of the Scotch format. I love World Cup of Pool. I love this Scotch triples, which is now turned into, you can have 4 if you want, or 3 if you want.
Yeah. So how does that? I don't know. I was looking at the format to see how that shakes out. So, they have women's singles and men's singles, and then they have mixed doubles, and then they have another singles thing. So the guy who plays in singles can't play in the doubles, and the same with the woman who plays singles can't play the doubles.
It's very easy to follow, Mike. It's very easy to follow, understand.
Apparently. So if Allison plays the singles match, Kelly has to play the doubles match. And if Darren plays the singles match, then Burford plays the doubles match with Kelly. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the way that shakes out for the teams that have, 4 or 5 players. I think most teams just rolled in with 3, and that's what they're rolling with.
Majority. I know you got Philippines got 4, UK's got 4, Poland's got 4. Just
right.
teams that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. I know there was like maybe Portugal has 4
New
as
Zealand
well.
has 4.
Yeah. Well, I just listen, no disrespect to teams like, Indonesia and whatever. And I mean this with all due respect before I say this, right? But like, I'd like to see a guy like Yap be able to compete. I'd love to see, politics kind of staying a little bit further out of it, or maybe have some way to where we can imagine a team like, Federer, Christina, and then insert another player, Mike, because how intriguing of a matchup would that be, right? And so, but I get
We
there's
could have
bigger
had Federer. He
picture.
could have been the 4th player in USA.
Do they recognize Federer as an American-born player, Mike, or
No,
as,
they're
not
not.
American-born, but as an American?
They're not in the flag here,
Right.
recognizing by that. But it would be really weird if he was playing for someone else in this and USA in Moscone, wouldn't it?
Welcome to the pool world, Mike. Welcome to the pool world. Let me ask you a question, Mike, because I saw a comment from you on social media on one of the posts that we put up. I think it was the Fortunsky post, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But you mentioned that you spoke with Federer, or that he's at least on the record kind of saying that he will not be playing for Team USA in any kind of World Cup of pool.
Yeah, well, he mentioned that he would not, that's kind of pushing it as far as, would he take someone's spot, like Sky's spot on
How
the
is that
World
pushing
Cup?
it? If you're allowed to play, and by the rules in place, you're an American. How would that be pushing it? I don't understand.
I just think
Well,
that he feels personally like he wouldn't step on Sky's or Shane's toe like that his first year playing in here. I just think that's just
what
a personal thought of his.
do you think that would be his decision to be made?
Of course, it's his decision to be made. Someone says you got an invitation. He says, I'm going to be sick that week.
Oh, so he's
Not
gonna
hard.
he's gonna pull like a Josh in Hanoi, right?
I'm really
I'm call
worn out. I'm going to
I'm
go play
calling in.
in
I'm gonna call in sick, but I'm gonna go play in Slovenia.
I'm playing at Rail Yard.
Yeah, I'm playing in the split bracket this weekend.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, can't make it. Busy
Yeah.
schedule. It's just it's interesting, Mike.
It
I
is.
get it from a respect standpoint,
I
but
get it from a respect standpoint as well.
yeah,
And I would be really surprised if, we're just speculating on all this stuff. I would be really surprised if Matchroom would invite him over a Sky and Shane anyways.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mike, since you're used to saying controversial things. If Federer were to take a spot, whose spot would he take on Team
Shane's or
USA?
Sky's?
Yeah. Let me hit the record. This one's making a reel for sure.
Well,
This
no,
response right here.
it would just be a guess, and how I would rationalize it. I have no idea. I don't know. That's a really good question. Whose place would he? I mean, Shane just won the World 8-ball. In Sky's,
Matchroom,
Mr. Moscone.
Matchroom can't spell 8-ball, Mike. Matchroom has no idea what you're talking about when you mention the World 8-ball. That's not going to be on. They're not referencing that when it comes to.
Well, if you go by that, I think Shane's had. Well, Sky had the 2 top 4 finishes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sky has 2 top 4 finishes. Overall for the year, how did they finish for the year in Matchroom?
Well, Sky was the first overall pick on Team
USA.
USA.
Yeah, but that was then his points, went down after that, right? So, I mean, his points stopped. They stopped taking his points into account at that point. So,
well, come on, Mike. I need a hard answer here, Mike. I need some.
Yeah, no,
I need some bulletin board material here.
40,
Look, I think
they were really close, Shane and Sky, this year in Matchroom events. The whole World 9-ball tour, they were like $3,000 apart. So they were pretty neck and neck. They were pretty neck and neck. I don't know. That would be a coin flip. I think if it's a coin flip, I think you give it to Shane by tenure.
I agree. It's Shane's for the foreseeable future until he doesn't want it anymore, right? Because he's and the reality is he's still competing at an extremely high level, and it's comparable enough where I think you can make that kind of exception.
Yeah.
Listen, I love Federer's response to it, and I think that's a great way of putting it. But I feel like at some point, especially if there's more if let's say there's not results in the upcoming year, then maybe fans may start to clamor for it, right? Or start to be knocking on that door. And depending on how the first few months of the year goes, which by the way, we still don't have a calendar or anything out on either side, it seems like, whether it's WPA or World 9-Ball Tour. So, depending on how the beginning of the year goes, performance wise, there may be a lot more asking for Federer to be involved, because I mean, look, at the end of the day, if that's the rules in place, Federer
I think
on
over the
any
years he will just become a more natural thought, a more natural initial thought. I think right now it's kind of like, all of a sudden putting him in the Uncle Sam hat and he plays everything USA is a little bit of a stretch.
well, I think
And I think
both
it
of
might
them.
make him a little uncomfortable, which is why I think it was, it's cool that he says, he probably wouldn't. Now, who knows? He could change his
Yeah,
mind.
but
He could change his mind between now and then too, depending on the circumstances.
But
So
what are they paying out? I mean, you got a chance to win what, like probably 40,000 ish, something like that. So I mean, Federer likes his money, and
he does like
he's
his
got
money. He could stay here
he's
for a weekend and win it all in a couple of tournaments here,
it's
anyways.
true. It's neither here nor there, Mike.
Yeah, well, I mean, fewer expenses.
Yeah, well, I mean, World Cup of Pool is a bit of the exception, because I think they pay
Yep.
for all your accommodations when you're over there, your flights and travel to, and you're getting paid as soon as you walk in the door, which is great. But yeah, I mean, I think he's that same kind of generational talent as Shane is now, but they're just kind of reversed a little bit, So as far as where they're at in their careers, but Shane is still playing at an extremely high level. We know how great Sky is. We know how great Sky is under big lights, and I think it'd be pretty great to see,
Yeah.
And so it's a good problem to have, if nothing else, because there was always just that kind of Shane and Sky, and I don't think anyone's kind of nipping at Sky's heels or Shane's heels for that matter, even if Federer was out of the equation,
When you
So
talk about it, it's kind of interesting now what different dynamic this puts on the hierarchy in U.S. quote U.S. pool is, name another country that's got a top three that's strong. I mean, there's a couple,
Shane.
but I mean, it's right up there, right?
Yeah, I mean, Philippines comes to mind, Taiwan
Right.
would come to mind, Poland, maybe close.
I don't know.
Poland would,
Yeah,
well,
Poland's
Poland may
close.
be on the outside
Yeah.
looking in,
Yeah. Right.
for sure.
Austria.
At least we think from a talent standpoint. Yeah, Austria, yes, but outside
Austria's
of
yeah. Austria's close, but not. I don't. I think that. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd give US the edge in that one too.
well, I mean, you talk
Uh,
about having let's say two world champions on Team USA, right? Austria would only have one. Philippines would probably only have one, right? If you're going top, if you're going three men,
yeah.
probably only
Yeah.
one. In Carlo, right? Carlo would be the obvious.
Taiwan would have
Would
3. If
Taiwan
you
would
went with both Ko's and Chang, they've all won
Little
world
Co?
championships.
What did Little Cole won? Oh,
World
World
10
Ten Ball.
ball.
World Ten Ball.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great conversation to be had, and this is why, look, the event they got going on right now in Puerto Rico, I
Yeah.
love the Scotch, because you can see great players have to, their pressure shifts because they have to play that much more pinpoint position when you have maybe a team or maybe like a weaker link, and nobody wants to say that
Right.
about their opponent, but they're very much aware of maybe who may have a little chink in that armor, Mike, on that team. And so I like seeing the carry of the weight. I love seeing the conversations. I love seeing how they pick apart racks. And also, from the drama side of it, the player who lets the other ones down, because then it's like the other one's got to lift the chin a little bit and say, hey, we ain't done yet. We got to keep on
Right.
fighting and stay out here and stay competing. So it's different. And I like the differences, Mike. I do. I like when there's these little twists in an event. And then, of course, seeing just the men and women playing with one
Oh,
another.
it's great to
So
see the men and women playing together, and it really puts obviously a premium on where the top women in the world are. Because if you have one of those top 5 women players, your team becomes exponentially stronger because
well,
the
you
top
would think
women
so, but then you
players
look at a
just
team
aren't
like
as
UK,
deep.
Mike. Look at the UK players. Let me see if I can bring up this thing so we can kind of dive into.
Well, yeah, so UK, you've got Allison and Kelly playing, right? And then you've
Right.
got Darren and Phil Burford. Well,
Well, I think it was because Jason wasn't going to play. Is that right, Mike, or something along those lines?
yeah, I don't know how they ended up, getting to where they got, but they did.
What they did. I love the official response there from Billiards Digest, Mike, for sure.
Just
Somehow or another.
hypothetical, of course.
Yeah,
So,
no
but yeah,
doubt.
you look at you look at the Poles, who have a really strong team, and Olivia's a good Euro Tour female player. Obviously, you look at Germany with Moritz and the fillers. That's a pretty strong lineup. Um, and Taiwan uh, could be stronger than it is, but it's not like they're really throwing out any hacks.
Yeah, let's just kind of break it down here a little bit, Mike, if we can.
Yeah,
So Philippines, obviously defending champions, Carlo, Roland, Rubelin, and Cheska. It's really a country with a lot of riches, Mike. You have two female world
yeah,
champions.
yeah.
Obviously, we
They're
know
rolling real heavy
Rose.
with the women. they're they're rolling
Oh,
heavy
for
with the
sure.
women
I
here.
mean, that's about as strong as it gets. But when you
Yeah,
could think about maybe a little bit of a hole, Mike, I look
yeah,
at a guy like Roland, who kind of
right.
has me scratching my head a little bit, if I'm being perfectly frank. And I love Roland; he's a great guy to root for.
Might have
But
been
if I,
availability, but certainly you would have picked other Filipino players over Roland.
I mean, I probably could have named, and again, I mean this with all due respect because I love the guy, but I probably could have picked at least a dozen or so players that I might have put ahead of him, Mike.
A
You know,
dozen? That's
A
a little
dozen,
strong.
yeah. I mean, listen. You think about the young talent that they have, Mike. I can start off with just the two World Cup of pool champions in Chua
Well,
and
Chua was
James,
on the
and
team
there's
last year, wasn't he?
yeah, which I don't understand either. How come he didn't get a chance to at least go out there and
I don't know how they
and
selected the
defend?
team. I have no idea how they selected the team.
Yeah. And then you got Darren Appleton, who I think they were a semifinalist last year, if not a finalist. Jason Shaw is missing from that team, so Buford fills in. It's good seeing both Fishers in there, Mike, and they're certainly going to be contenders. But if you're going to look at potential liabilities, I'd say and I would say probably more so than what Roland may be to Team Philippines, would be what Buford is to the Great Britain team.
Um,
Um,
yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I got a little thrown. Someone saying, did Chua post something that says, why would I play in this? I'm just going to get banned after.
is that what he posted?
That's what John Leandro said that he posted. Said he
Yeah.
could play, but he said, why would I play in this if I'm just going to get banned after? I don't know. I'm not even sure what that means.
Well, maybe because if he sees considering how he's banned via the ACBS and playing in
Well,
Hanoi, you know.
yeah, Carlo played in Hanoi and so did Roland.
Well, look,
So,
if
I mean, if
I
you're going to
didn't,
get
I
banned
didn't, I
after
didn't,
this, why don't you take the money and run? Why don't you
I
grab
didn't.
some money on the way out the door?
Well, I didn't see that part of it, Mike. But I'll tell you, if that was the position, I got to tell you, I kind of like it because I like him kind of standing up for himself. I like him taking that stance. I like that, he's having more of a backbone versus guy. Like I think it's really disrespectful for allowing maybe saying to like a guy like Federer or Yap and say you can come play in this event, but we're not going to allow you to play in this event. I think it's a little bit of a slap in the face, Mike, and I love him taking that stand. If in fact that's the case,
Yeah.
I wish I wish players took more of a stance like that personally. But either way, you got Chinese Taipei, Cheng Jun Lin, Wu Kun Lin, Chow. I got to tell you, Mike, that's a pretty strong lineup there, Mike.
Yeah.
One through three.
Yeah. Not bad at all.
Who stands out to you, Mike, through these 16 teams?
I think Philippines, even with Roland Garcia, I think that's a really tough team to beat because I think the women are, they're rolling so heavy with that. And Taiwan with Chang and Wu and Chow, really good lineup. And then obviously the fillers. So I mean, those probably be.
Give me a 1 through 3, Mike. Of who you ranking 1 through 3?
Philippines, Taiwan,
Wow,
Germany.
wow. That's pretty strong. Philippines, Taiwan, and Germany, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm probably shifting a little bit if I'm being honest with you, Mike. Just kind of looking through here. If I'm going, is this more with your heart or with your head here, Mike? Just out of curiosity.
Got to be with my heart because I got no head. No,
I love that response. I love that response.
yeah, no, it's with my head. What I'm looking at here and thinking how people like to, who I think will play well. That's just the
Right.
way I got it. Why? Who do you like? Uh, you know, you like Austria better? Do you like?
Yeah, I do. I'd probably go if I'm just looking at where, and don't get me wrong, Philippines, great team, and they're certainly in my top three. But if I'm ranking them a little bit, I'd probably go with, if I'm just thinking about recent form here, Mike, I'm probably going with Germany being number one. Number two, I'm probably taking. Number two, I'm probably taking. Yeah, I guess I would take Austria and then Philippines in number three, Mike. Just because I think the Austrians, with Jasmine being such a decorated player, you obviously know how Albin's playing right now. Mario is about as solid a number two as you can ever ask for, in any kind of doubles format. Very comfortable playing that style of pool, Mike, as well, and being complimentary. So yeah, that's how I would do it. But this is part of the dynamic and the discussion that I love about
I'm
this event
surprised
is
you don't
because
like I'm surprised you don't like Taiwan since all three of them are in the WPA top 10.
I don't even know where I can find the WPA top 10 list, Mike, to be honest with you.
WPA-pool.com. Come on. Everybody
Oh,
spends all day there.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Uh, no, listen, I think Chow is a great player. Chang, we've had this discussion about Chang
Yeah,
before, right? About like where we hold him at versus what his recent resume where may
correct.
say that he's recently at, right, Mike? And I feel like that's a really big weight there. Wu Kunlin, phenomenal player, one of my favorite guys to watch play pool because I just love the way that he hits the ball. I love how he gets around the table. He just looks like a really dangerous and serious guy, not to be messed with. But the absence of the Ko brothers just has me scratching my head a little bit, right? And if we had Chow along with Ko Ping Chung and Ko Ping Yi, Mike, I would argue till I'm blue in the face about how they're going to be snapping this thing off, right, Mike? I mean,
Yeah,
honest
no.
to God, right, with the way that they're both playing right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it really leaves a lot to be desired there. FSR, Alcade, Ropero, two guys who are playing great. Ropero, I don't really know a whole lot about, Mike. I figured Mata would have been the female player for Team Spain. At least that's who I would have picked. But if I'm going any kind of what I would consider a dark horse and probably the team that I want to see do well in this event, Mike, it's the Poles, right? Masial, Wojciech, Zelensky, those are three strong male players. And then you got, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce her last name, but she's a very strong European female player as well, Mike. So,
Olivia Zalewski.
yeah, that would be the one that I'm looking at to kind of make a run. But there was a bit of controversy when it comes to the Polish team, Mike. You had Misko's post, which I guess you saw that earlier.
Yes, I did. Very interesting post.
What were your thoughts, Mike?
Well, my thoughts are that, he's butthurt, but listen, there's no doubt that the Polish Federation, there's more, drama and guys seemingly getting screwed over in the Polish Federation than any federation in the world. And part of it is because they have so many really good players. But you always talk to them and who's in favor with the federation and who's out of favor with the federation. And this guy didn't get invited here because Marcin, who's the big head dog over there, is mad at him because he played someplace or whatever the case is. You hear more of that in Poland than anywhere. So it doesn't surprise me that what I say is that Misko's getting passed over could very well be personal, and it could very well be the point that he may be the number one Polish player in the European rankings, but in the WPA rankings, he's the fifth highest Polish player. So if they want to rationalize and say, well, it's a WPA World Championship, we went by the WPA rankings, and you're not in the picture. Okay. I'm not going to argue with a guy who says that. He feels hurt, and I think that it's basically his way of saying that there's a lot of personal and favoritism type of issues that go on in the Polish Federation's decisions on
I've
who
never
goes
heard that
where.
before ever, Mike, in pool.
Not in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, Jackie, I see your comment in there, but Matas and Rapero are two different players altogether. They're not the same. But no, Mike, going back to your point, yeah, I think it's just a matter of maybe just too many chefs in that kitchen, Mike. Too many EPBF rankings, WPA rankings, all this kind of shit. Even under that WPA kind of umbrella, and but I think that I think they have the out with the WPA ranking side of it. But listen, I know that guy takes a lot of pride in being number one on the EPBF. The Polish Federation takes a lot of pride in that event, which is why they were pushing all their players to go play in whatever it was over a World Nine Ball Tour ranking event, right? They put an importance on that tour, Mike. But it's like you can't pick and choose when it becomes important. I guess is where I can kind of side with Fortunsky in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to see him get, that, but that's, you and I both know picking two male players for Team Poland is not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. And I mean, look, to be perfectly frank with you, Fortunsky's a great player, right? I think he's gotten better.
He wouldn't be in my top two. He wouldn't be in my top two. Would he be in yours?
No, he would not be, Mike. He would not be. I think the Wojciech and Zielinski argument are very close, for me, right? I think both of them are very well deserved to be in that position 1 and 2. Having Maciel on there, I'm a big fan of Daniel Maciel's game. I know he doesn't have the accomplishments as some of these other guys, but I'm a big fan, and maybe I'm kind of having that filter on a little bit when it comes to saying that. And maybe if you could argue Fortunsky maybe have taken one of their places, it would probably be Daniels, right? But listen, it's kind of like the Philippines where you got just a ton of riches there, an embarrassment of riches, as they say. And so this is just part of it. And whatever it takes to kind of get back in that position, go dig deeper and work harder, I guess would be the simple response, right? Yeah. But there's always going to be someone who feels, shorted as well, Mike. So, but yeah, just a ton of good talking points when it comes to this event, Mike. I'm really looking forward. Do you know when it starts? I saw someone post it today. Oh, it's tonight?
Yeah, I think they start the first round tonight.
So the format is they're playing group stages first?
Yes.
Okay.
Hold on, let me run through this real quick. So yeah, they're playing it's group stages. Everybody plays 3 matches. 3.
And then what? You at least got to be 2-1 in order to move on. Is that what it is?
That would be my guess.
So if you lose 2, you're done.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
that would make sense.
Yeah, I wonder how they.
Team Philippines opens with Team USA tonight at 8.
Get the popcorn ready, Mike. That's gonna be pretty good. Yeah, I say it's gonna be pretty good. Shane coming off a World 8-Ball Championship win on those tables with that rack, having a lot of experience. Carlo being the very well decorated player, and just so much respect for that guy and his game. Obviously, we know the 2 ladies for Team Philippines, right? Tyler's had a lot of success. April would probably be the big question mark amongst that group, right? If you're just looking at them, but having two guys like Tyler and Shane to fall back on is pretty awesome for her. I'm looking forward to that matchup, Mike. I think that's about as big in box office as you can ask for. Maybe kind of looking into the future at it, but it kind of stirs up this Reyes Cup, hope that we've all seen. And I know you've seen the post online as well, Mike. Give me your old school. I'm against this kind of argument that I know you got, Mike.
I'm not against it. I've never said I'm against it. I don't think that it's a replacement for the Mosconi Cup, and I don't think that ever will be. No, it's not. For one, if it's going to be the winner of the Mosconi Cup, who Team Asia plays every year could change, right? So it's just not going to have. It's not going to be the Mosconi Cup, and that's fine. I don't mind adding something else to the equation. So I love the ideas. I'm just tired of hearing about it. Either make an announcement or leave us alone until it's time, until they're getting ready to play. The big
Well,
tease went on when Mr. Puyat and Efren showed up in Hanoi, and everybody
I
took
mean, they
pictures
were
and
they were
waiting
in the
for
neighborhood,
announcements.
Mike. They were in the neighborhood. They came in to sweat
No,
the event.
Efren's never in the neighborhood. Efren doesn't go any place that there's not a real reason that Efren is
Yeah,
there. Correct.
yeah, right,
So,
right.
so that part, and now we see it again, and so but I've got an ear to the ground in Manila, and kind of keeping in touch with what's being floated over there. So I'll
Okay,
let you
well then
know
let's
when I'll let you know when there's something to talk about.
look. It's time, Mike. It's time. I know you've gone all these years of covering the sport where it's always this European USA rivalry. And there always will be that, right? There's always going to
Yeah,
be that trash talk, and there's always going to be
yeah,
that competition. There's always
always
going to
going to
be
be that.
those like deep rooted fandoms on both sides. And I love every minute of it, right? And I think like now more than ever, the competitive balance has shifted to be a little more even than what it was for such a long time, right? And I really genuinely believe that. I'm not just saying that without being sincere, but it's time. It's time. Everybody wants to
Yeah, no,
see it.
there's no
This
doubt
this
about it.
tour. This,
I'm all for it, but I'm just like, do it already. Okay, just do it.
well, I mean, we can just
So
call up 10 guys and see if they want to go meet at Sharks in Manila and just and flip the
yeah,
coin, right?
Sharks should just do it. They
Yeah.
just pay a bunch of people from a couple continents to go over there, and then we'll see if there's any bans in
No,
place.
one. Yeah, right. Really
We'd
make some
find out
calls here,
really
Mike.
fast. We'd find
Yeah.
out really fast.
Oh, the pissing contest would be over with because then you know who's really in charge at that point. No, listen, I love the potential of this event. I think it
Oh,
just really, I
it'd
think
be
it just brings
fantastic.
home. It really brings
So where do you
home
have it?
worldwide competition. What do you
Where
mean?
do you have it? Where do you have it? Do you have it Taipei? Do you have it in Manila? Or do you have it in Hanoi?
That's interesting. I think number one, I think year one in Manila, year two in
Yeah.
Hanoi. You know, I think the
Well, year
Philippines
two would have to
are
be in Europe, right? Or the US. I mean, how are they going to do that too? What's it going to be like every other year?
well, it's two separate events, right? You're still gonna have the Mosconi Cup, right? So that you can start that USA
Okay,
switch,
so
right?
let's say this year US wins the Mosconi Cup. So they go to play Asia next year. And then the following year, where does Asia go play?
Mm, well, listen, Mike, don't spoil the party, Mike. You know, who cares? Who cares? All right. Listen, I tell
I'm a
you what,
logistics guy.
listen, it's home court, right? It's like old school basketball. Home court, you know, you make it, you take it, and you check before you come in bounds, Mike, right? So that's how we're doing it. You go play over there first, you win, you get home court for the following year. That's the way they're gonna do it, Mike. I like it, you know. So
Okay, I'll
um
take that. Could
Hanoi,
be a
it's
long
gonna be
time
hard.
before you get it.
It's gonna be hard to argue against Hanoi though, because that place looked really special, Mike. I'm not gonna lie, it looked amazing there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, and I
um,
think that part of the thing is that you use all that in your marketing and you challenge other places to drum up the same atmosphere. That's what you try to get. I mean, that's what they always did with the Mosconi Cup. They kept jamming down our throats about the 1,500 people in Blackpool or in Tower Circus Theater screaming and yelling and whatever. And you make Americans feel like, we got to step up and show up. And last year it was, yeah, we've got everything you've got. So, that's part of it to me is
well, because you get
that's
like,
how you create a global market, right? You go to these different places, and if every place is crazier than the previous place, it just feeds off itself.
well, listen, you get 2,000 plus of the most diehard fans in that area and coming from all over the world. You know, make sure you got a camera on every part of that room. You
Yeah,
know,
for
because
sure.
it's
I
it's
mean,
gonna be it's gonna be buzzing
and
without a doubt.
that's how you get sponsors and partners, or whatever. They look at it and they're like, wow, this is pretty cool. I want to be part of that.
Well, this is why you see the Mosconi Cup, or at least part of the reason why you see the Mosconi Cup grow to what it is. You know, and I think it's only the beginning, especially if you add this different
It's
dynamic, which could be introduced to
and
the
it's why I
party.
want to see it on something other than the zone. How many people in the
Yeah.
U.S. would start watching this, whatever, if it wasn't in the zone? I mean, I don't want to get off track, but that's.
Yeah, well, people got a lot of people.
We're talking about growth, so we may as well.
I mean, it's fair to say a lot of people have a bitter taste in their mouth, and you can't, if you're here with your ear on the American fan, pulse and their voice, then, we've been hearing that for years, and it's
Right.
been one issue after another where fans kind of tend to get fed up. I'd like to hope that the Mosconi Cup is kind of the exception where everybody comes together and despite all those bitter attitudes that they
No,
still
no,
go and
listen, I get
support
it. I get it.
and
I
watch
think
it.
that I think that pool fans will watch it, but I'm talking about growth, and it's one of the things I really like about what
Fair, Mike.
Predator does with their events, with the World Billiard TV and with the Billiard TV network and all that kind of stuff, is put it out there for anybody who wants to watch it, and that's the way you grow fans.
Right, but you can bring up
Instead
the
of
Pro
just
Billiard Series.
preaching to the choir.
Right, but you can bring up the Pro Billiard Series and their format, Mike, and then we can also discuss the elephant in the room where, who knows what their calendar is going to look like next year, right?
Yeah,
From 6
I'm
events
just
down
talking
to
theoretically
3.
about making pool available to people to consume.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody wants it as easy as possible to watch, I mean,
I'm not worried about the money. I want to see more eyeballs get on this, and you don't get more eyeballs by saying, "Yeah, I don't know anything about pool, but I'll go ahead and pay $21 this month to watch this thing on this thing called DAZN that I've never heard of before because I'm not a boxing fan." Sorry, not going to happen.
Well,
not going to happen in substantial numbers.
it's fair, Mike. It's absolutely fair. It's absolutely fair, and I get that. I think that it's more the long term and innocent. If you build it up great enough, where I think this year more than
Then
ever,
they'll get there.
we'll kind of be.
They'll get there on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
despite it, but then you also think, what could it be if it were somewhere else, right? Which I think is.
Well, if you build it up to the point they want to build it up, you're going to have more people fighting for the opportunity to broadcast what you're selling.
Right.
And then you can get it into some other platforms.
Listen, there's bigger picture deals that are behind that, along with Matchroom's relationship with DAZN and the boxing and all that good stuff, Mike, right? I'm assuming darts and whatever else. So, listen, it is what it is at this point. I know I'm going to be tuning in. I think you're going to be out there, which is going to be great. It's going to be a fantastic event, and it's become this year-round thing. And if you introduce the Asians a part of it, it's just going to continue to make that conversation even more exciting. Scoreboard watching was just phenomenal to end the year. And I know we ended up with these 5 Europeans that were last year, same 5 Europeans, but imagine these talking points when it comes to the Asians and how much more they're going to be incentivized to go and travel as well, Mike,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
How much more exciting that's going to be. And for everybody putting on a pool event, whether over there or any decent major that's over here as well, Mike. So, anyhow, listen, we appreciate all you guys for tuning in. We're going to have a lot more stuff coming up. I think me and Joey are going to try to do something maybe later on this evening and kind of recap everything. And then I want to just do more, Mike.
All
I know
the things that we were supposed to talk about that we never got to. In the recap. Sorry.
But there's a lot of stuff going on. Listen, I love our tangents because if I always say this, if we're at like an hour now, right? If the hour goes by fast, I'm enjoying it, and I'm hoping everybody else does as well. So, but there's a lot to talk about more of this tournament to follow up with, whether it's the men's event, the women's event, and the teams event that's going to be starting.
Yeah,
so we're going to
talk about the teams event tomorrow. We'll get that
Mike
to talk about tomorrow.
Mike wants to talk about Loho Sum going down in the first round and a couple other talking points that he wants to bring up.
Lewis.
So there you go. We appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon. We will be back maybe tonight, if not for sure tomorrow. So we will see you guys soon, and we got some pretty big announcements coming up as well. So later,
Thanks
you guys.
for your patience.
Patience. What do you mean patience, Mike?